Hello, everybody. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. All right, welcome everybody. I am Bunny Carpenter, the president of GRF, and I proudly present uh, Chris Logendauer. You can't? You still can't hear me? Okay, right into the microphone. Okay, thank you. All right, so we are going to have a presentation today on Age Well and the bus system, which they are presenting their proposal. And I'm going to introduce Chris. I'm sure everybody knows Chris. He has been working on this program for almost 3 years and brought it to the board this year to consider as a new contract for our bus system. So I'm going to introduce Chris. Do you want to come up and start the program? Thank you.
Hi. Whoa. Hi, welcome everybody. Can you hear me okay? Great. Thanks for coming. It's good to see so many people out here for this. I wasn't sure how many people would show up, so thank you so much for coming out here and having an interest in our transportation program. Again, I would just like to stress that what we're sharing here today is still in the proposal stage. It has not been, there's not been any vote of the board yet. This has been presented to the GRF board and a couple of committees, just primarily as a proposal to get feedback to see what if we want to go forward with this. And the GRF board and the committees have said, you know what, let's take it out to the residents to get some resident feedback before we would go any further with the proposal. So I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that this proposal has been approved by the board, that it's happening. We're still in the information gathering stage to get input from interested residents as it relates to this proposed change in the transportation program. So I wanted to start off with that. I do have a PowerPoint presentation I'd like to go over with you to give you an overview of the proposal from AgeWell. I believe all of you have a copy of that you could have got at the table. If not, there's one for you to get on your way out. Also at the table, we had a question and answer summary. We made a similar presentation about a month and a half ago, but that was purely done on television and through Zoom. We got a number of questions, and so what we did is I wanted to provide the people here with a copy of those responses to some of the questions that came up at that meeting, because hopefully that might have answered already some of the questions that you have. But at the end of this presentation, we will open it up to get feedback and questions from you, the residents. After me, you will be hearing from Steve Moyer. He is the CEO of AgeWell, and both Steve and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding this proposal. So with that, I would like to start the PowerPoint. You can go to the next slide, Liz. One of the things I wanted to go through real quick, and again, if you cannot hear me, please raise your hand. Sometimes I tend to shy away from the microphone, so please, if you can't hear me, let me know. I wanted to give a brief overview of AgeWell. Steve will be going into it a little bit more. But AgeWell is a 501c3 nonprofit. They've been around since 1975 here in South Orange County. They do a lot of things as it relates to senior services, with one of them being transportation. In case you didn't know, AgeWell owns the Florence Sylvester Memorial Center. So they're actively involved with the operations of the senior center there, which some of you might use. And also AgeWell, through their own transportation program, currently provides transportation services to doctor's appointments and hospitals for those people who are kind of outside the area that don't fall into the Village Transportation Center. So they are very, very familiar, very, very familiar with the village and the needs of the village, and they currently offer about 5,000 trips per year to residents. So again, they have a very strong background and understanding of the village and how the village operates. Wanted to go over to the next slide, Liz. Wanted to go over a little bit of the history of things that have happened over the last few years to kind of build the teamwork and the collaboration between the village and AgeWell. Back in 2019, the GRF board approved an agreement for AgeWell to start purchasing the fuel for their 26 vans from GRF. And so that was the first of our collaborative effort to where they basically purchase the fuel that we have in the service center, and then we bill AgeWell for the fuel plus a little markup to cover administrative costs. One of the reasons I did that is because I wanted to make sure that before we implemented something like major like we're going to be proposing today, that we have already developed a good working relationship with AgeWell and that we have that strong collaborative teamwork going on. So in 2019, we set up a fuel purchase contract with AgeWell. In 2020, a year later, AgeWell came to us with a need for parking of their 26 vehicles. So we actually worked that agreement, and they currently park their 26 vehicles in the employee lot at the service center. So that's just another collaborative agreement that we've made with them. They do pay the village for that, so it's kind of a win-win situation, both with the fuel and the parking, where both it was a win for AgeWell and obviously a win for us by bringing in some additional revenue to help keep the costs down. And finally, the other part is, like I said, those two things provide the additional revenue, and it allows AgeWell to provide goods and services at good prices. If you can go on to the next slide, Liz. Now I want to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the proposal that is out there with AgeWell. AgeWell has agreed to, and what their proposal states is they will be basically doing the operation of these 5 programs for us. One being the fixed route system, one being the journey program, which is the door-to-door service for those residents with special medical needs, the docent tours, the excursions, and the destination shopping program. They would be doing the operation of it, and one thing I want to emphasize is at the exact same, they would be taking over our exact same service levels. There would not be any changes to routes. There would not be any changes to any of the programs. They would be taking over the program exactly as it operates today. So I didn't want anybody to have a concern that, oh my gosh, the routes are going to change, or is the journey program not going to be available. It would basically be operated the same as it is now, but just through AgeWell. The next slide, please. Another thing as it relates to the employees, we currently have a number of full and part-time employees, our bus drivers. We have some administrative staff doing the dispatching and things of that sort. AgeWell has agreed to hire all of the current VMS employees. So if there was any transition, and if this did get approved, no VMS employee would be out of a job. AgeWell has agreed to hire without question all of our employees. So there would be nobody that does lose a job. And their benefits would be moved over to AgeWell benefits. We're in the process of reviewing the differences between the health care and all that from one to the other. It's relatively close. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different, but we're in the process of reviewing that right now, so I don't have exactly what all the changes are. But they have agreed to take them over, and also none of the employees would lose any of their seniority AGL has agreed to keep the seniority that they've earned. It's like we have a few drivers who have actually been here like 20 years. We wouldn't want that employee now going back to ground one and they're starting over as like a brand new employee to AGL. No, AGL has agreed to keep their seniority and also to keep their pay rate at the same pay rate that they're making right now. So there would not be any type of salary reduction based upon that. If you don't mind, if we can go to questions after the presentation, then between Steve Moyer and I would be happy to answer all the rest of the questions. But I know that's one that's out there, so I just wanted to make sure that I addressed that right now. But we'll be happy to answer other questions after the formal presentation. We can go to the next slide. There we go. The other major component of this is what do we do with our vehicles? We currently have we, meaning VMS, currently have a fleet inventory of 16 transportation vehicles. AGL has agreed to purchase 12 of those 16 vehicles at a cost of a little over $573,000. That pricing was actually determined by utilizing two outside auction companies who are in the business of selling used buses. And so we basically took the market value that we received from two independent contractors who were in the business and came up with that number of $573,000. So I am confident that is a fair price given the existing market. The other thing that was talked about was the sale of that $573,000 would be put into the capital fund and set aside. So if that money might be needed at a later time, let's say worst case scenario happens that AGL doesn't work and we need to buy the buses back, we would have that money in almost like an escrow account or in a separate account outside the operating account should we need to buy those buses back in the short term. So that's something that the board has already discussed, and so it's not like that $570,000 are just going to go in the operating account, and if we do need to buy buses down the road, we're starting from scratch. That gives us a nice piggy bank right there. We can go to the next slide, please. The maintenance side of the vehicles is this is something that was personally very important to me. Right now our vehicles are maintained by in-house staff. We have a fleet staff that currently maintains the buses, and one of my concerns was if we do something like this and somebody else is maintaining the buses, I wanted to make sure that they were maintained at the high level that they're being maintained right now. So AGL has agreed to pay the village to basically keep the same maintenance level that the buses are currently being maintained at. We have a staff that works from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. They're very familiar with all the buses. They work on the buses regularly, and that $71,000 is basically the cost that it's currently costing us to maintain those 12 buses. So it's just something I just felt it was very important to remain the consistency on the maintenance side of it. They'd be maintained exactly as they are right now. Additionally, one other, I'm sorry, the third one there, I'm sorry. The third one there is one of the other things that we've talked about. It's not part of this proposal, but something that could potentially happen in the future is AGL has actually approached us to the potential of maintaining all of their vehicles, the 26 vehicles that they currently own that are sitting in the parking lot. So if we did that, that's something that is not part of this proposal, but it's something we would do down the road. And we would do it at the potential, not only to make sure we're getting paid enough to maintain the vehicles, but also make a little extra money on the side as a revenue enhancement to the village. So that's just something that is out there for the future. And anything like that would obviously be done through a separate contract, would be going to the various boards for approval. And again, just want to stress it's not part of this contract. We can go to the next slide, please. Some of the nuts and bolts details of it as it relates to this is the fuel. The fuel would be purchased like Agewell does now, like their 26 other vehicles. They would be purchasing all the fuel at the site, and then from us, and then we would be billing them directly for that fuel. Another very important part is the oversight of the bus operations. The oversight of the bus operations would still be handled through the GRF board and the M&V committee, which means there would be no major changes. Any proposed changes to the transportation program would still have to go through the M&V committee and the board. It's not like if this happened that Agewell could go and change a program however they wanted. No, that's not what we're talking about. The program would still belong to the village, but it would just be operated by Agewell. Any proposed change that might be for improvements or anything like that would still go through the process that it is now through the M&V committee, then ultimately the GRF board. Contract term, we'd be looking at a 3-year contract with 2 3-year renewal options. So we are looking at a potential long-year commitment with Agewell. And also Agewell has agreed to this. I've never heard this before, but to show their commitment to us, they were willing to put in a termination clause of 1 year, basically showing their commitment to it. So if something doesn't work out on Agewell's side, they're committed to provide us a high level of service for a year, and they can't just say, we're done, we're out of here, and leave us high and dry to figure out what we're going to do to do the transportation back in-house. They would have to give us a year's notice if they decided to do that, which is plenty of time to get us back on track, should be. So I thought that was a pretty strong commitment by Agewell for their willingness to make this work and work with the village. We can go to the next slide. The next slide, this is a very detailed financial statement. Basically what I wanted to show to you is on the financial side, we have worked very closely with VMS finance staff. This has been brought forth to the GRF Finance Committee. So we have been running the numbers through both the VMS Finance and the GRF Committee. And I would just like to highlight a couple of the numbers. Overall, the transportation program, that's why we have the handout if you need it. I know they're kind of hard to see, but in summary, the transportation program basically takes about $1.5 million to operate. And that's to operate the entire program. That includes maintenance, fuel, the staff costs, all that. The operational cost savings to do this would be roughly a little over $100,000 a year. We'd be saving operationally each year. But the other thing that we'd be saving is the need to replace buses. We currently budget in our capital budget each year a minimum of $200,000 a year to replace one bus. So we would not have to budget for those items to continually replace the to replace the buses. Those would be the responsibility of Agewell to keep their fleet up and going. So we would have on the capital side the need not to have that big budget request, and then on the operational side, roughly $100,000 savings. But what we did here is basically did a 5-year projection of what it would be, working with finance. And the intent with this is I want the community to be aware that these aren't just numbers that I'm pulling out of a hat or made up. Working very, very closely with our finance department, with Steve Hormuth and Jose Campos, working with the GRF Finance Committee to make sure that everybody is understanding the numbers and that the numbers are real, and we're not going to come back saying, oh man, we messed up and the numbers weren't right. We've taken a lot of painstaking work to make sure that these numbers are accurate, because I didn't want to stand up here saying, I'm going to save you all $500,000, and it comes back and you say 50. That's not my intent. My intent is to provide real numbers, real information, and then have the board decide if they want to do this or not. And I can give you the assurance that those numbers are real and accurate and have been looked at very, very, very closely. If you can go to the next slide, please. Benefits to the village. Why are we doing this? Or why am I even taking this proposal to the board? One, there's an operational cost savings, $100,000. Why it's not a huge amount. I know that everyone's looking at the bottom line to see what they can do to save money off their assessments, because it all goes down to the assessments that you all pay. So as a staff person, it's my job to see what I can get cheaper and better to help keep the assessments down. So there is obviously a reduction in the operating cost. I see as opportunities to increase revenue. Like I said, the potential to do additional fleet maintenance will bring potential revenues, new revenue sources. As I mentioned before, it eliminates ongoing capital outlay for replacement buses in the future. Just so you know, I believe we have of the 16 vehicles, we have about 12 large buses. To replace a bus, depending upon the market, could go anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 per bus. So that's a huge number when we're looking at replacing our buses, and the average bus needs to be replaced about every 7 to 8 years. The other benefit, it's more on what I call the soft cost side, is the reduced exposure on the liability side. Currently, with our bus drivers, we have workers' compensation claims that we have to deal with, liability exposure to the village that is out there. By, in essence, contracting out the operations of this to Agewell, we would limit a lot of our liability exposure as it relates to the buses. And also, the last one is, I believe Agewell offers increased opportunities to provide greater efficiencies in our bus system. One of the things that I have tried to do when I was here was to always look, how can I do things better, cheaper and better, cheaper and better. I think by partnering with Agewell and with their expertise in the amount of buses and service level that they have, we could, in the future, there'll be opportunities to even make the system run even better as they get more familiar with our program and we continue to develop that partnership. I just see more opportunities to get more efficient in our operations, again, through this partnership. If we can go to the next slide, please. Next steps, kind of what happens from here. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are still in the information review gathering portion of this project. I cannot stress enough, we are being very slow and deliberate. I know that there's been some concern out there. Why are we moving so fast with this? I can guarantee you that we are not moving fast. I took this to the board, I believe, the first time in October or November, so it's been almost 6 months, and we are still collecting data, analyzing the data. We are now getting community input before we take this to the board and make it any more official. So I don't want to think that this is moving fast. In my estimation, that we are taking our time to make sure that we are doing this right. We're looking at the numbers closely. It's important that we're getting the resident feedback to make sure that there's a comfort level with the community, to make sure that the community needs are being addressed and that there's no misunderstandings there. This is the second community meeting we had. Unfortunately, the first one hit when we were right in the middle of our most recent lockdown, so that one was done on Zoom and Channel 6, to where I didn't have the opportunity to have such an audience like this to get the back and forth dialogue that I was really hoping for. So I'm excited about this. But I just want to emphasize that This has not been, no formal action yet has been taken by the board. Again, this is purely at the proposal level. Once I do get direction from the board to move forward, then at that time we would work out the details, the nuts and bolts contract issues to make sure that the village is protected from a liability perspective and from a operations perspective, that the village will not be hurt at all. And a lot of that stuff gets handled in the nuts and bolts of working with our attorney and their attorney to make sure that contractually we have a good, solid contract. And again, we're taking our time on this because we do not obviously want the village have any type of exposure or be hurt contractually by something like this. Because I do realize this is a major deal for the village. It's a major move, and I want to make sure it's done right. And I believe that we're taking the steps to make that happen. And so, if the board does give us the approval after this meeting and after all the questions are answered, we will begin development of a contract. Then we would go through the formal approval to the GRF board, of which there would be community input again. And I put in a date of May 2022. That is not a hard and set date. If it turns out that we need to slow down even more to make sure all our ducks in order, that's what we're doing. We are not rushing this through at all. It is much more important to me that this is done correctly and accurately and where the village is covered. And my goal with this is that the rider and the end user is not going to even know that there's a difference, because there's going to be the same bus drivers, the same buses. It'll just be operated under a person wearing a different shirt per se. But to do that takes a lot of work to do, because we want to make sure it's done right. And I think when I'm done here, you're going to be hearing from Steve Moyer, the CEO of AgeWell. And I think you'll get a comfort level from Steve that he does have a commitment to the village. He wants to make this work, where he's not going in here to make a change and to change things up. Our goal is to keep it operating in a good manner. We made some major changes a couple years ago to make especially our fixed route system work really well, and I think it works pretty well right now, so we're not looking at changing that. He's going to just keep it going. We just see this as an opportunity to save some money and maybe provide for some future efficiencies. So with that, that's kind of the next steps. And the next thing I would like to do is introduce Steve Moyer. He is the CEO of AgeWell. He'll be giving his spiel on that, and then after that we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I do want to let you know, Steve and I have been working on this for about 3 years, so this isn't something that has been not looked at thoroughly. Unfortunately, kind of COVID got in the way. When COVID first hit, we kind of put the brakes on, because obviously it wasn't the time to move this forward. But Steve and I actually started the initial discussions about this about 3 years ago. So it's something that we're both excited about, and we're very interested in hearing your feedback on this as well. So now I'd like to introduce Steve Moyer.
Thank you very much, Chris. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Our long-standing nonprofit holds the Title III contract through the Office on Aging, County of Orange, for all of South Orange County. That starts at Newport Beach, Irvine, and goes all the way south. In addition, and the Title III contract has a variety of things that we're responsible for, specifically nutrition programs in all the community centers. That includes Meals on Wheels in each community. We distribute through 500 volunteers to all of the residents in that 400 square mile service area. We have, in addition to that, a congregate meal that we do in all of the community centers throughout our service area. We have case management that we do as our volunteers are delivering Meals on Wheels and they see a senior that's that's having difficulty. We bring in case management to assess how we can help that senior in any way, and we bring in additional resources for that. And then we have nutrition transportation. If an individual is well enough but doesn't have transportation to a community center to be able to go and socialize and have a nice lunch Monday through Friday, we have that transportation program also. In addition to the Title III contract, we operate the non-emergency medical transportation program for that whole area that I'm speaking of also, and that's where you see our buses traveling through, the green buses traveling through Laguna Woods Village. We've been doing that for 23 years, and again, it's medical transportation. We take people to dialysis, people to chemotherapy, to their doctor's appointments, and for prescriptions. Further, the Age Well is truly so committed to seniors in this area that we built the only site that we own, community center that we own completely, and that's Florence Sylvester Memorial Senior Center. If you're not familiar with that, it's located in the Molten Plaza where the DMV and Big Lots is, and we built that actually in 1999. So Age Well, our nonprofit organization, is strictly created by Dr. Marilyn Diddy in 1975 for the purpose of serving seniors, to help enrich their lives, and that's it. That's what we do. We deal directly with seniors, and that's all we do. In addition to that, we have 10 community centers, as I had indicated, in our service area. We truly value the relationship that we've developed over the years with Laguna Woods Village, because it really is in the heart of where we work, where Florence Sylvester, it's our busiest center that we have throughout our total service area. Recently, we have received a number of awards, and we were voted by Orange County, or we were voted Orange County's favorite senior transportation by Times OC, LA Times, and we received 2 of those awards most recently by the Reader's Choice. It was a Reader's Choice Award that took place. In January this year, we received word that we are receiving a transportation grant to purchase new vehicles. We applied for the grant, and this is through OCTA, and I'm very proud that out of the 8 other organizations that had applied for the grant, we finished number 1, and we were rated on a 100-point scale, 96 points. So very proud of our team about that. We also received nonprofit distinction that was given to us by Assemblywoman Cody Petrie Norris, and that was in 2021, last year. I'm not sure if you're aware of the annual South County Senior Summit, but it's a very, very big convention that takes place each year, and we were a founder of that in 2007, and we continue to be the main sponsor of that. And currently, originally it was with Supervisor Pat Bates, and now it's Supervisor Lisa Bartlett, most recently for the past number of years. But in the event you've never attended it, it's a fantastic convention that goes on, and you will learn absolutely everything that's available for seniors to make their lives better. So you may ask, what's in this for AgeWell? Really the collaborative relationships that we've had with your organization for years. As I say, we've been in the village for like 23 years, and it just makes sense because you are in the heart of our territory. Our strategic plan is to grow the transportation department at this point. We want to be the #1 senior transportation character in all South Orange County. And the bigger that we can get, the more organized and the more cost savings we can get. And so our thinking is that, to me, the report card for us at the end is the more seniors that we can transport in a comfortable fashion, as we make their life easier and enrich them, as eventually, God forbid, seniors are not able to drive at some point, and so consequently we want to be there, and we understand seniors, we understand the sensitivity of that and the importance to transport people that to hopefully make them feel better and enrich their lives. A lot of our transportation is dialysis, and so consequently you can imagine the people that have to go through that, they don't always feel good when our drivers pick them up, and they want to get home. They have a lot of things on their mind. They've spent 3 or 4 hours there. They need to have the comfort and quality as we transport them back home. Being a nonprofit, this opportunity truly does serve our mission. We're looking for a long-term relationship, and I know, as Chris talked about, as far as part of the proposal that he wanted us to do is to give a way out. And when you feel it in your heart that your organization is going to truly take care at a high level of Laguna Woods Village, it's easy to write in and say, sure, Chris, we will put a clause in to allow Laguna Woods Village out in the event they choose to. That's the way that it should be. This deal is probably the longest structured deal that I've ever been involved with in my life, because it truly has been behind the scenes 3 years in coming about. And as part of that, it has been looking, if you imagine, if you put yourself really in our shoes and you want to structure a deal excuse me, that you truly feel that you want to do it the best that you possibly can, because you're dealing with seniors, that is your mission. You want to make sure that any stone that needs to be unturned to look underneath, that you do it, and you try to do it the best way you can. The one thing that came up, a question, as far as the employees, and I certainly understand that. We have drivers, and if you understand the history, which I've studied, the history of transportation in Leisure World, Laguna Woods Village, you learn that it goes way back. And there was a gentleman that his name was Bill Mannix, and he was the very first driver. And obviously a very personable guy, and developed a relationship with the passengers. And that socialization and that becoming friends with the driver and the senior, that's kind of a magical thing. And that's the thing that's occurring today in your program. It occurs also in our programs that we do. But because the relationship is with your drivers and the seniors that are using the fixed route, that's important that that stays intact. And so how can we best do that? Well, one, we offer to hire all of the drivers and a lot of the behind the scenes personnel. Two, we need to, it's not fair for the driver that's got 20 years in for them to lose it all and it all goes away. So then we said, okay, we will give them all that seniority. That's important. In 401k program, they'll be 100% vested as soon as they come into our program. The amount that they're making, we will look to match that, the amount that they're making. They will be driving the same bus. They will be on the same fixed route. They will be picking up the same passengers that they are every day now. So we don't want to disrupt that in any way. Then the other thing was as far as benefits, that came up. Well, we have looked at the benefits. Chris has made me, produce every single benefit as far as our medical, dental, vision, 401k. We even buy life insurance for our employees. So consequently, Chris has that, and we're taking a look at that. So every single thing, the buses, concerned about, okay, what are we going to do with the buses? Okay, we'll buy the buses. And so in looking at the buses, we really went out and he was at one level, we're at another, and we got an independent third and maybe even fourth. And then, okay, we both agreed, and that's where we are. So every step of the way, we truly have tried to do this the absolute best that we can. So our goal is, again, getting back to the senior to create a long-term, and I know that there's an out that we talked about, but I guarantee you that AgeWell can do this, and can do this at a high level that will do nothing but make us a partnership that is stronger than ever. And I would look for this to continue for many, many years to come. And the ultimate report card will be handling people at a high level and having the residents that all of you are at the end of the day go, you know what, it's smooth, it's dependable, and it hasn't skipped a beat. Your organization is so well put together with the Golden Rain Foundation Mobility and Vehicle Committee, which I've appeared at a committee meeting and obviously answered a lot of questions. But to have that is so good for your community, because they focus strictly on the transportation program, which is a major deal, I think, for people to actually, it draws people to Laguna Woods Village. They want to live there because of all the amenities that there are. And so this is something that is not set to cheapen it in any way. It's really set to make it better. And as we partnership together, that's truly where our heart is as far as AgeWell. We want to do it, and doing it at the level that really makes all the residents happy. Thank you.
Yeah, so at this point, you stay up here, Steve. I'd just like to open it up to questions that say you might have, and we can just hold on. What we can get, is there someone who can help us with the microphone to pass the microphone around? That would be great, so that way everybody will be able to hear everybody else's question.
Hi. I used A12 for a time. They charged. What are you doing about charging? For each visit, or for each trip, it was $2.
Our contract with the County of Orange is mandatory, and this is government that dictates to us. I think what, in all honesty, I think what the government determined was it's mandatory to charge $2 each way. That will not apply in any way to this, to Laguna Woods Village current fixed route and all this program we're talking about, ma'am. There will be no charge. It will continue exactly the way it is. As far as the non-emergency medical transportation, that's dictated, that's part of our contract, that the government wants people to pay $2 for each trip, each way. And it seems as though the psychology of that the government has is that way the senior feels that they are helping, they are paying for part of the trip. Does it cover the cost of the trip? Not even close.
You do realize that all these buses, et cetera, came out of our pockets to begin with. We pay homeowners fees, and that's a sizable sum of money. And so consequently, if people have to be bothered with giving their $2 for every trip, I think that you need to consider some kind of a bus pass that one could purchase or something like that that doesn't require that somebody stand in a line and provide you with money every time they get on or off the bus.
I apologize, ma'am. I'm not being clear. The Laguna Woods Village program that is here today that we're talking about, the fixed route system, there will be no charge. Your homeowners, your HOA assessments is paying for that. There will be no charge. As AgeWell operates that, there will be absolutely no charge. The $2 charge that you're talking about is a totally different program. It's a government program, and that's the non-emergency medical program, and that will continue to be $2. But you taking the fixed route system, you taking the journey system, the docent, all of those things will be totally free, exactly the way that they are today. And what you say is true, that your HOA has paid for the Laguna Woods Village buses, and yes, you will never be charged on that.
Thank you for this presentation. It's been thorough and very well spoken. If we were not happy at the end of the 1 year, now we don't have any buses, what's in the contract for making that come back? And then the other thing I wanted to ask was, right now with our free bus service, I can go to many places other than medical, and nobody questions where I'm going as long as I'm within the route. And the last thing is, with AgeWell, is it only medical, or could we pay our $2 and go someplace else?
Well, you go ahead.
Sure. To answer the first part of your question, if I remember correctly, as it relates to what happens 1 year out, and stuff. That's why we set up that termination clause of 1 year. If for some reason, well, worst case scenario, I don't see it happening, just like Steve shared with you. Worst case scenario is Agewell comes to the village and says, we don't want to do this. It was a bad deal on our part. We want to get out. They would be committed to maintaining it for a full year. So there's a 1 year termination, and that would give staff then the ability to develop a new program so the transportation program would continue to be provided. So we would purchase them back from Agewell. With that, remember I had said that $573,000, we're actually putting it aside, so we'd use that money to buy the buses back. Okay. Okay.
And then the next one was, other than medical, can we go any place medical outside of our village?
The best way to, I was standing here thinking, about these questions, and the best way to think of this is the non-emergency medical transportation, which is the government contract. We're going to forget that Agewell even does that, because that way it'll just make it easier as far as dealing strictly with the Laguna Woods Village deal that we're talking about. But before I say let's forget about the non-emergency medical transportation, which is the government, that is dictated to us that has to be medical related, period. So okay, so now we're putting that aside, and now we're just talking about this. That's going to be dependent upon GRF and the committee that I spoke of. They are our bosses and are our boss on this, and so they tell Agewell how high to jump, and we jump. Yeah.
I'm going to be going row by row, just so everybody understands.
Thank you. I have two questions. First of all, the three staff, the coordinator and the schedulers, would they remain in the offices where they are now, or are they moving over to some sort of new place at Agewell, at Florence, Sylvester, or something like that? Or would they still be using our offices?
Good question. And at this point, what we've talked about is they would move to our administrative office, which is really in Lake Forest, right on the other side of the freeway, right on the other side of the 5. So we have space for them and would accommodate them. That way, it would just, it would free up space so that would be a benefit also. The other thing that I would say, as far as the benefits, you ready for this? I saw something on your chart. One of the other positive things for Laguna Woods Village, if this deal this partnership takes place, is that there'll be a savings of benefits where you pay a portion of their medical benefits. All the employees, all the drivers, you pay a portion of that. You wouldn't have that. We'd be paying the portion of that.
Okay, and secondly, you're taking 12 of our 16 buses. I know those other 4 buses are special grant buses, et cetera. What's going to happen to those? What are we going to use those for?
Those buses, once we get done with the grant requirements, because those 4 buses are still technically part of the grant from many moons ago, would basically take that to the MMB committee, and my recommendation, at least at this initial point, would be to probably sell 2 of them, or 2 or 3 of them, and keep 1 bus here just for emergency basis, or should the village, for whatever, need a bus for something, we would have it available to us. But it's basically going to be up to the GRF board what to do. My recommendation would be to sell most of them and maybe keep one or two for an emergency.
Last question. The docents, excursions, and shopping tours, would those be at our direction or at Agewell's? And the docents, I assume, would still be our volunteers.
Yeah, I guess I need to make sure I understand what you mean by direction, but it would still be
where they're going to go and
Yes.
how often they're going to go and
Correct.
all
Yeah.
of that.
No, they would still, those programs such as the docent tours would still be coordinated out of the CEO's office, and then they would, so all that would be handled by us. Then when we need a bus, we'd call Agewell, and Agewell would bring a bus to
They're just providing transportation.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you?
I hope my voice comes. I knew it. Thank you, gentlemen, so much, both of you, for your presentation today. I just wanted to, I'm sorry, but before I ask my question, I always get Boost and Journey mixed up, sorry. So which one is not Lyft?
Journey is not Lyft.
Okay, Journey. But from what I understand, we're still going to have the wellness bus under this plan, right?
Well, hold on.
No?
Yeah.
We're not gonna have the wellness
bus is part of the fixed route system.
Okay, but I mean,
Okay.
we're going to have it,
And
right?
that would remain the fixed route system. There's no operational changes.
Okay, and so on the Boost, which is for the disabled folks,
Now, Boost is actually our Lyft program.
see, every single time, Journey, are we still going to have the Journey? I got really confused, nothing
No
personal,
problem. The
Steve,
Journey
but
just to make sure it's perfectly
We're
clear,
still
the
gonna
Journey
have that.
program we would still be having it. It would be operated under this proposal. Agewell would be doing picking up the residents and taking them to within the village boundaries using the Journey program.
and which is, okay, where I got confused was when Steve started talking about the non-emergency medical.
That's
It's completely.
when a resident needs to be taken somewhere outside of the village boundaries and they need to go to a hospital.
Right,
up
but that's the way it is now, right?
Right, that's
So-
the way it is now.
Okay, good. But we're still going to have our,
We would still have the Journey program where as long as it's done within our transportation boundaries, they'd be picked up at no cost and taken to primarily around Saddleback area and taken there for their doctor's appointments, primarily with the Journey program. That would stay as is, and it'd be operated by Agewell.
thank you.
Well, I think that this sounds like a very good partnership that can be very successful with our two organizations. I have a question about, I understand that the staff that we call for transportation to make our reservation or whatever will be moving. I've had a situation, my husband and I, where we could not get to Clubhouse 1 in time to get the wellness bus for our doctor's appointment. Who would make the decision to expand the program to add an extra bus? We used to go on bus 3, and then they took bus 3 out, and we had to go on 2, and we at least 3 times were not able to get to 1. And we called the office, and they sent 2 times they sent a van to pick either myself or my husband up. And another time they had the number 1 bus meet by Olive Garden to intercept the bus. But what I'm saying is that it seems like we have more people riding the bus these days than we did 2 years ago when I was taking the bus. Is that true? And the expansion thing, who would make the decision to expand and add
Right.
another bus?
Yeah, the last part is easy. Any bus expansion or program expansion
Yeah.
would be handled through the GRF board, and we would go to the M&B committee for approval, because that would usually take additional resources if we're going to add a bus or whatever on a permanent basis, that's something that we would go through the approval process with the boards. As it relates to the bus ridership, that's a little bit of a tricky one because when COVID hit, our ridership took a tank, and it's slowly going back up. You're right, the ridership is going back up. I do not believe it is yet at the same level as what it was. But yes, we are over time, we are getting more riders each month, and as it progresses, as long as it stays within our budgetary confinements, we will make small changes to make sure that the residents are taken care of. But if it goes to the level that we need to make substantial changes that cost additional resources above and beyond what is in the budget, that then those decisions are made by the GRF board and the MMV committee for more substantial changes. And that would continue even with this program with AgeWell. Just because there's someone else driving a bus, those types of operational management decisions will be the boards will have oversight, and any major changes would have to go through the boards. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, yes, thank you very much. Oh, one thing, the H-Well buses do not have the same kind of ramps that our buses have, right?
Their current fleet does not. That is one of the main reasons why they are buying our buses.
Okay.
Because our buses do have the ramp, which does make it much easier to get in and out, and they will be utilizing our buses for the fixed route system because it works.
It works.
And it's like the last thing we want to do is to create a problem that's not there. And they're aware that for future bus purchases that are going to be going towards the fixed route, yes, it make sure it's spec'd out so we'd get one with the ramp, because for our community and the amount of people that go up and down that ramp, that makes total logical sense to go up a ramp rather than those horrible 3 steps that you sometimes have to go in the older buses. And that's something that Steve and I have talked about.
Yeah, I think our ramps are fantastic.
Hi. A couple years ago, you took out the night buses and got the lift to transport people. Well, I can't take the lift because you don't have ramp lifts. And I haven't been able to go out for dinner in 2 years unless I pay Access to take me out. And I want to know if you're going to put in the nighttime buses for those of us who need the ramp. And that's my question for now.
Oh, no problem. Yes, we did go to the lift program at nights and weekends. And in terms of the ramp, no, we were told, and this is just a work in progress, so please, with the lift program, there were some operational issues, and one of them did relate to people such as yourself that are in a scooter or something like that. So that now that we're starting to revamp we're getting past the COVID time, we're ramping back up, that is an area that we're going to have to address, because in order to provide it with either AgeWell or our staff, that's going to require additional resources to do, because so I'm just saying that that's something that we're going to have to address now.
Well, it was done, a couple years ago. Why do you have to reinvent the wheel? I mean, you just
Well, part of the reason of going to the LIFT program was it was a financial savings to the program, and it's something that we started off this contract. There have been bugs with the contract. There are issues. One of the issues was providing services for somebody like yourself, and unfortunately we didn't get a chance really to address it, because when COVID hit, we basically wiped out the LIFT program. But now that things are wrapping up, that's just something that we're going to have to address, is how do we take care of that. Other than that, ma'am, I don't have a direct answer for you, and but it will be addressed in the future.
Thank you for a very informative presentation. There's an interesting question on the board here on the chat box. It says, does the logo of Laguna Wood Village going to be on the buses or all going to be age-well? That's an interesting question.
We do plan to rewrap the buses. We have a new brand we most recently done for Agewell, but all of the buses would have some language that indicates that this bus is serving Laguna Woods Village.
My name is Shel Valenskis, and I've been living here for 9 years, and I got myself involved with the transportation for several years, took signatures from over 200 signatures. Okay, the question is, and then I want to make some statements, okay? Are you going to pay attention to when I make a complaint that's not driven around to all the managers? That puts them in a bad place. Now, if I make a statement with you or a complaint, I want to investigate it, okay? Okay, now I have to tell you, I depend on the buses because I don't drive. Most of the drivers are kind, courteous, helpful, and good drivers. But know of VMS drivers named Buzz is rude, uses foul language frequently, fights with the other drivers, and argues with the residents. Me for one. He was rude to me. And I just look at the guy when I get on the bus. I avoid his buses because I don't want a conflict. If you ask the drivers, ask them about Shalva.
May I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Our whole, again, mission is to serve the seniors. This is a service industry, and we provide a service. And if we have a driver that is causing issues, that is rude, that is confrontational, that ruins your day, that's not the kind of driver we want.
Great.
I get involved when our staff, and we have a director of transportation, when it comes to me, it's a situation where I jump in, and I would be giving the individual a call and get the full information on that. And then we would sit down and we'd have a serious conversation with the driver. And it would be in writing to the driver. We would tell the driver exactly what happened, assuming that it isn't to the point of termination at that point. But so long as it isn't, we would sit down with that driver and we would say, here's the actions that you had that got you in trouble. Here's what you have to do to keep your job. Sign this, indicate that you understand it, and we sign it, it goes in your file. And then if that individual had another incident like that, they'd be gone.
Great. I could go more on Buzz, but I'll leave it go. You understand what I'm trying to tell you. He's rude. Lou was here for a long time, out in how many years? Pardon me? What? Okay. Lou had to be out of work for a while. He looked like he was having a breakdown over this problem. And anyway, I think I said enough, so I'll be here every time you have a meeting. Who's the next?
Thank you for your comments.
I actually had complained about Buzz as well, and it was just one particular day he just got really out of hand. He was very angry and driving badly, and they apparently did talk to him, because after that he's been really nice to me, very, making sure that he's being polite and stuff like that. So Apparently, they did talk to him. But anyway, I have a comment on the situation for the nighttime, is could they just expand the journey so they're not having to necessarily run the whole thing, you know, routes and everything at night if they don't want to, but have it where people that need to get somewhere, and the journey is just for the handicapped. So, you know, that can't take the other one, I can't think of it, and that just expand the journey to being available at night. And they need to probably expand it a little bit more during the day, having more of them apparently, because a lot of times I call and I go to schedule it and it's already booked the whole day, you know, and stuff. So there's no availabilities.
I'm hearing it loud and clear, so we'll be addressing that with Francisco's the transportation supervisor right there, and we will definitely be addressing the issue of your and the other lady's needs.
Right. Now, I don't take the journey for medical, which is, that's why they get priority and stuff like that. But, like, I have to take the journey to get here. I have a class, obviously. So I just came from class. And if I try to take the fixed route, because my class doesn't start till 10, however, because the one bus is the only one that comes here, and it's on the hour, I can't get here till 11. And, you know, because they start at 9, which would be nice if they started earlier and ended later, you know, which would definitely be appreciated, especially when we get to summer, ending later. But, yeah, and, you know, you have the boost system in place to handle those. It's just a lot more difficult to take. Now, I can, with a walker, with the other woman thing, you know, that she wouldn't be able to take the boost, but with the walker, I can still take it. It's just a lot more hassle to do so. Anyway.
Hear you loud and clear. I would also recommend because there's been some questions today as it relates to operational program stuff. Can we do that, this and that? That's really not part of this proposal. What I would encourage you to do, if you do have any questions about service level issues, that is exactly what the M&V committee is for, to hear those concerns from the residents of, hey, can the transportation do this for me, or can we make these changes? Because then that gives your elected board people the ability to kind of see and redirect resources if needed to take care of these situations, much like has been addressed today. So I would encourage you all, please attend the M&V committee. It's the first Monday every other. Thank you. The April 6th, then it's every other month, the first Wednesday every other month. That's exactly what the M&V committee is for, to hear these types of concerns. It's directed to the board members. Okay. Staff can deal with it, and we'll get it addressed.
Where is that?
It happens, I believe they're now in the boardroom, in the community center.
The community center, okay.
Yeah, but it's.
And what times would they be in the?
It's 1:30. Thank you.
Okay, so it gets.
Yeah,
okay,
1:30 the first Wednesday of every other month.
Okay.
The next one is the first Wednesday of April, at 1:30.
Okay, yeah, that's a problem. Okay, I have another question regarding the drivers. Is the new thing says that they're going to be hired, not just interviewed. Are they going to be hired with their same seniority and, you know, pay scale, you know, rate that they're at, or would they be considered new employees and be down at the bottom?
They're going to be hired at their same seniority and same salary.
Okay, because I just concerned that unhappy drivers may leave, and we really like most of the drivers that we've got.
And that's really an important characteristic of this program. In the event the partnership occurs, we want to make sure that, seriously, from one day it's operated by Laguna Woods Village to tomorrow it's operated by Agewell. People don't even know the difference because it's the same driver picking them up at the same time, the same routes, the same buses That's the way that we want it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'll tell you is that I have heard that some of the drivers, Laguna Woods Village drivers, as you might think, they're experiencing some anxiety from the standpoint that they're hearing things, and I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet, but it really hasn't been appropriate for me to talk to them yet until this is we decide which way we're going to go on this. But at that point, I certainly want to alleviate the anxiety they have and say, listen, we're going to treat you fairly, and we're going to treat you the way that we would like to be treated ourselves. And these are the things that are going to happen where you're not going to lose seniority, you're not going to lose, your wage, you're going to be driving your same bus, you're going to be driving the same seniors that you drive every day and have grown to really like. So
Yeah.
to
I
be
have
able to
heard
do
from
that,
them.
it will tap that
I've,
down.
I've heard from a lot of the drivers, a lot of their anxieties, that we talked while they're driving and stuff. And so that's why I was asking this,
Yeah.
that was something, and that they haven't been able to have any feedback or anything. And that's something that you probably need to have a meeting with them and let them pose their questions. And
At the appropriate time,
Yeah.
ma'am, we definitely will. And obviously, AgeWell marches to the management of GRF, and that's important.
Hi, this is Annie Funk, and I am totally blind. It's dark 24 hours a day for me. I go out with my guide dog, and I take Journey. This week, I could not go to Stater Brothers or Trader Joe's to get any groceries. The Journey was strictly full, and I'm wondering what I can do. When it gets hot, I used to try and take Lyft at 7, and because I have a dog, or for some reason, it's not a big enough space for Lyft to go, so they'll say, oh, your ride is there, be there in a few minutes. Then it says, oh, it's canceled, but don't worry, we'll get somebody else. Liz knows about this. I have been passed up 4 times, and I try and go at 7 in the morning so that I can get 8 o'clock Journey to go back home with my groceries, and it does not work. And same way with going out for dinner. They don't approach me, they just leave. They sit in their car, they wait 5 minutes, and they leave. So we really need our old 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock evening bus, because I want to get out, and go to 19th Restaurant and wherever we go, but I can't. And I can't take the fixed bus, so do you guys have any suggestions for me? I had to take Access to go get groceries this week. And we used to have 2 journeys, and we don't. Now, and the other question is, AgeWell, and you guys say it's for medical. Okay, I go to Stater Brothers, I go to Not Just Hair. Am I not going to be able to do that?
I'm assuming that you're talking about the Journey program?
Mm-hmm, Chris, yeah.
Yeah. No, you will be able to do that. In fact, I'm pretty confident because of the fact that AgeWell has more available drivers. Some of the problem right now, I'm just being honest with you, is the fact that driver shortage is an issue amongst in our transportation department, because with the economy and able to hire staff and stuff, Francisco is constantly juggling drivers to make sure we have enough drivers, for the fixed route, then on top of that Journey. So there are times where we have had to prioritize the medical ones over the non-medical ones, especially when we're short of drivers. But that's just, I believe though, now that we have, if this goes through with AgeWell, by combining our drivers with their drivers, we'll have a much bigger driver pool to pick from. So you'll have less of a driver availability issue for the Journey program.
Okay, but I have one other question, and when I couldn't get a ride, I called transportation back, and I wanted to use Lyft at 7 in the morning, like I used to, because I have a guide dog. I can't go out at 11 and 1 when it's 90, 80 degrees out. Blacktop is too hot for her. And I said, well, can I take Lyft at 7? And the person said no. So why could I not get Lyft at 7 in the morning to go to Stater Brothers last week?
You should be, I believe. Are those Francisco, the operating hours are?
See, it used to be 7, Francisco. Yeah, because I have the guide dog.
Yeah, I believe the Lyft program starts at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but
so
they said I couldn't get it.
we'll follow up on that, Annie,
Okay.
because no, the Lyft program does start at 7. Yes.
Yeah. So there was one other thing, but I forgot. Oh, I do want to say, I do use AgeWell for medical. I had to have surgery at Laguna Beach, and I'm willing to pay my $2, and they were excellent. So, you know, I have used AgeWell to go to the chiropractor and stuff, and because there again, it's not very far, it's just, and we don't go there with Journey, but I can get there with AgeWell, and I have not had one bad driver. They're just so courteous and helpful.
And just to follow up on the Lyft issue, I know that's not part of the proposal, that we are in constant communication with Lyft to address those issues, as I know we've talked to you in the past. That is one of the problems that we've been dealing with, but Liz over here, she is constantly talking to them and trying to make sure.
I'm just so scared of doing it anymore with what.
No, I understand. It's we're trying what we can with Lyft.
I've got to be a big girl and do it, whether I wait 2 hours or not.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. And my question has to do with scheduling. So when someone calls to schedule a ride, who are they going to be talking to? And how, if they're going to be talking to, because I understand Laguna Woods is going to be managing the program, and AgeWell's the operations, how is, if when we schedule a ride, we're talking to Laguna Woods, how is it going to be communicated? What's this going to look like in communicating
from
to
your
AgeWell?
side, hopefully you're not going to notice any difference, because you will be calling the exact same number.
Okay.
So it would be the exact same transportation number. We're coordinating. Already talked to Chuck on the telephone side of it. He can forward that number over to the offices in AgeWell. So it's not like you're going to have to learn a new number to get your ride.
That's
Again,
great.
the staff that are currently answering the phones will just be sitting at a different desk, but over at AgeWell. So the majority of the phone calls will be answered by the staff that you're currently calling now using the same number.
Okay, wonderful.
As Steve mentioned, one of the goals to what we're trying to accomplish here, and there's a lot of work underneath the surface to make this happen, is we want the operation of the program to be so fluid that the average user is not going to notice a difference. So that means such things as making sure the phone number is the same, making sure
That's
that
great.
everything is the same, so there's zero impact to the end user, which is you guys. That's our goal with all this, to make sure that that happens.
And if the drivers are AgeWell and under the AgeWell management, complaints about the drivers, would that still go through Laguna Woods to AgeWell? I mean, I'm concerned about the communication, so.
Yeah, it would go to AgeWell originally.
Okay.
Okay, because the drivers are going to be AgeWell employees. Now, we still have the MMV committee still has the oversight of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Francisco is our supervisor. Francisco is going to stay on staff as a supervisor, overseeing it from a VMS perspective to make sure that the contract is being adhered to, that there are no issues, to kind of be the buffer person between AgeWell and the management here to make sure that things are going smoothly. But the initial contact would be with AgeWell for any driver issues. But if those are being addressed to our satisfaction, it's not like you're stuck and who do I call now?
Yeah.
You always have the M&V committee. There's Francisco's going to be on staff. Robert Carroll, who's over there, he's my replacement. He will still be available to handle any needs that the residents have that they feel that Agewell is not providing the high level of service that Steve says he's going to provide. So we're having that checks and balances internally still set in place.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. Thanks. And so we'll have a direct line. The residents will have a direct line to Agewell, which will be something new to us. My other question has to do with assessments for Journey. Will they be done by, I'm assuming that they'll probably still be handled by Laguna Woods?
Yes, the assessments for Journey qualification would still be handled through VMS staff, because we actually have a contract with Memorial Care. For those of you who don't know, we developed a contract with Memorial Care where they have agreed to do those assessments free of charge, where previously, before that, we were paying for a third party to do the assessments. We actually negotiated with Memorial Care, and part of the overall marketing strategy, they've agreed to provide those assessments free of charge to the village, and that process will continue.
Excellent. Thank you.
If Laguna Woods is saving $100,000 with this change, and also we're not going to have to buy any buses, what happens when Agewell needs buses? Who's paying for that?
Laguna Woods Village. No.
Yeah.
No. Agewell.
Agewell would pay for the new
absolutely,
buses.
Absolutely.
So actually, Laguna Woods is saving $300,000 a year. Okay, thank you.
My name is Marion Levine. I live at the Towers. I no longer drive, and I'm visually impaired, so I really rely upon the bus system. You talk about working on this proposed contract for 3 years, and you've been doing it behind the scenes. I am concerned that the rumors only came out a couple of months ago, and this is the second meeting we as residents have had an opportunity to hear about it and speak to you about it. I, as a longtime owner in the village, bought into the village knowing that I bought part of this transportation system. This was my, silver bullet should my car break down. I had this great transportation system. The realtors talked it up. This would take me anywhere if I really needed a transportation system. Now I'm hearing that GRF is selling it out from underneath our feet without consulting the residents. You are doing this without getting the approval of the residents for a big piece of their assets. And the only way that I know about it is because of little flyers on the buses, which only bus riders see, or little 3-inch blurbs in the Globe, which are unintelligible to the average reader of the Globe, a resident who doesn't know anything about what's going on. So I am asking you, when are you going to tell the residents, the entire village, that this proposal is out there and their transportation system is up for sale to Agewell, so that they have a say in whether they want it sold?
Well, My response to that, ma'am, is that's currently the process that we're doing right now. We are in the, we're getting the word out that there is such a proposal. We're requesting feedback. You're right, this is the second such meeting that we've had. And after this meeting, if it's determined that we need to have more of these, then, and if the board wants to get additional feedback before they get serious about this proposal, that's what we're doing. So we're currently at the stage of the proposal of getting input from the residents to see if this is something that they would like to do or not. So with that, I mean, I'm a little bit confused because that's what we're doing right now, ma'am. We're getting this.
Don't go away. We've got more questions.
I just want to let you know, as GRF president, we are concerned and know how important this bus system is. It will never go away. The efforts on Chris and Steve here is to present it to the residents. They have been told twice. This is the second presentation. All the residents were invited. What's my surprise is that we haven't had more people basically today to actually come and ask questions and learn about this system. But one lady out here, she's talking about selling. We're not selling, our bus system. If it doesn't work, we will take it back. But we will provide a transportation service for everybody till the end of time. That's all I can say.
Does that sound good to you? Or?
Okay. Age will is under specific state mandates. What's to say that if Laguna Woods is absorbed into the age well system, that there will be additional state mandates that are put on Laguna Woods?
That will not happen. I give you my word, that will not happen. This is a totally separate deal. We do things with clubs right now. The Baby Boomers Club, they hire us to transport residents from Laguna Woods Village to Woodstock event that they have each year. Another club, we transport people to South County outreach to food pantries. We have lots of things. City of Dana Point is always, we may be doing an excursion from them, totally outside of government mandates. The government mandates that we have are specific contracts, RFPs that we apply for, along with other transportation agencies, and it is a very comprehensive grant package that we put together, and we go in front of panels, and eventually the Board of Supervisors for Orange County vote on it at the end once it's been approved before we get our funding. But this is totally separate. And the other comment that I'll make is, excuse me, ma'am, you mentioned that this program is selling, Laguna Woods is selling us this. That's not it at all. And furthermore, as I had discussed, the important thing that Laguna Woods Village wanted is they wanted the ability to get out if it didn't work, if they're not happy with the service. So it's merely a partnership, a contractual that we enter into, and if we're not doing the job, then I want you to tell us, and you know, we will leave. But if that's the case, we don't want to leave Laguna Woods Village in a bind, from the standpoint that they would need to get their buses back, they would need to, and we would have drivers and things such as that, and we would certainly work in a very cooperative, collaborative manner. Do I think that this would happen ever? No, I would bet heavy, my personal money, you know, that it won't. Why? Because I'm CEO and I'm not going to let it happen. I want this to be a ongoing collaborative, and I certainly understand yourself as far as being in the towers, and that's a beautiful place to be. And as I say, the history of your transportation program, and I didn't know it initially when I went to the mobility committee, and I got a tough lesson that day, but I went back and I read the history and how this came about, and people move here to have their transportation, and everybody that has talked about it, about how they need to get to the store, how they need to get to where they need to go just to live their life in a uncomplicated way. That's why they move here. So as Bunny says, this is not going away at all. I think ultimately, when this is all said and done, in the event that it shakes out that it is a partnership, we will do nothing but try to make it better as we see areas that we can, but we will not make one change whatsoever without the approval of GRF. And that's it. And if it's not working, GRF or ourselves will discuss and say, you know what, this isn't working the way that it should.
Is it going to be in the contract then that the state or the county cannot make mandates to the legal agreement that Laguna Woods has with Agewell? Because you said it could never happen, and too many things in government happens when they say it never will.
When we get to that phase of working with our attorney and their attorney, I'll be happy to make sure if that's a piece of language that legally can go in a contract with like something like this, that I would have no problems putting that in. However, I am not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say yes or no for sure, but trust me, the village's our attorney will be working closely with the development of this contract to protect the village, especially for things like you just mentioned. And we've jotted it down. We have it down in writing now, and when it gets to that level, I'll make sure that gets taken care of.
Sure. And there could be language in there that in the event that is coming about, that this contract at that point unwinds and goes back to Laguna Woods Village, so it prevents that, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. And I'm more than happy to do that.
2 years ago, the Laguna Woods, whomever, changed the routes, saying that they had hired a consultant or whatever and decided that certain routes weren't needed and then certain routes had to have time changes. But it wasn't inputted by the people that use the bus system. Will Agewell do the same thing? Because the people depend on the bus system, and when you pull something out from under them, they're in a bind.
I think the committee that GRF has, the Vehicle and Mobility Committee, that's their job to dictate that. And so if the residents have any comments as far as the program, the routes, and whatever that need to be changed, that's not specifically the contract will be set up that we can't do that. They can. Again, they're our boss, and we're not going to come in and change things until we're told to change things, and they're the ones that best know, and they communicate to us, and we change it accordingly the way that they're dictating to us to do that. And I think that's the proper way for it to be handled. Do you have a different thought on that?
Well, I was just hearing from our neighbors that are dependent on the bus system that they felt like they had the rug pulled out from under them without their, they didn't have a say in what happened. It just happened.
What just happened? Oh, as far as
the change in routes, the change of times, the elimination of routes.
We had I don't want to go into the past, but I'll guarantee you that there was a lot of community input into the development of the new routes. I don't want to go into specifics, but there were a number of opportunities for the residents to give their 2 cents on ways to improve. But in the future, Steve is exactly right. If there are areas that need improvement, again, I don't want to keep harping on it, but that's exactly what the M&V committee is for the residents to come and address the issues that they currently have with transportation, and they'll be addressed at the committee level and the GRF board level.
Currently, Newsom has stated that electric vehicles will be
If we can, we need to, I apologize, I totally hear you. We need to make sure in order to keep moving forward that we keep the comments to the proposal that is being presented. And again, if there are future questions as it relates to service level types of things, please bring those to the April meeting at the April M&V meeting. But again, the focus of this meeting needs to be the proposal and questions as it relates to the proposal that was submitted.
okay. I'm not finished, but
No, if it's related to the proposal, man, we'd be more than happy to hear your comments. Okay, nope. We'll go back to you.
I have used the service of AgeWell and Journey, and I am very grateful to both of these organizations. According to the register, though, AgeWell seems to be wanting to have more than Laguna Woods on their agenda, and maybe the city of Irvine or other cities are asking AgeWell to do their transportation also. That means our buses will be used in all kinds of transportation. And will there be enough buses for us to receive our usual service or better service? And what will happen after the 1 year if we give this up when our buses have been used all over the county?
The agreement, the partnership agreement, will make it mandatory that the services that are enumerated in that agreement, which will be exactly the same services that you have today and the same times that you have today, will occur the same exact days that you currently have. And that's mandatory. And in the event that we don't do that, then we should be in default of the agreement. You are correct that we have right now, senior transportation is exploding. It is exploding. We have just picked up all of Irvine, and I hope this is a statement as to who we are as far as AgeWell. The Title III programs that I described, which is nutrition, running community centers, nutrition transportation, case management. Orange County is divided into 3 sectors, basically north, Irvine, and south, which is AgeWell. City of Irvine, after years and years and years of running their Title III program, came to us, and this was roughly 2 years ago, and said, AgeWell, will you take over our total city and do Title III? That happened January 18th, a very big thing because Irvine increased the size of AgeWell 25%. So at this point, we have that. We have a number of cities that have asked us, listen, will you do our transportation program? We're very selective about that. We do not grow any faster than we're capable of doing. Right now, we're in the midst of purchasing a number of buses. In addition to that, I talked about the grant we most recently received for OCTA, and that is to purchase a number of buses. The deal that we're looking to make with Laguna Woods Village as far as all this is every bus that we have or additional vehicle that we bring into the game, so to speak, we're going to pay for parking, and so that's all additional money that Laguna Woods Village would be getting by allowing us to park in the lot, which is only fair. This deal, you know, I learned in college, they always said the best deal that you can make is a deal where both parties walk away and go, that's a very fair deal. It's not one-sided, it's very fair and open. And the relationships the collaboration that we have had with even your current CEO and your past CEO could not be better. I value those relationships, and AgeWell will be there and we'll be there with buses. And when those buses wear out, in the event they do, we will, first of all, we're maintaining them at a very high level. The thing I'll say also about your transportation department is the maintenance department. Your vehicles are very, very well maintained, and they're so well maintained that Chris, obviously, he didn't have to bend my arm back too much, because I appreciate the maintenance that they get, and so we're paying $70,000 a year to keep them maintained in tip-top shape. But the other thing is I'm saying, you know what, you guys do such a great job, I'd like to give you our whole fleet, and you do that. So that, again, that should be a lot of money coming in to Laguna Woods Village to benefit things, but also it helps us. It's a win-win situation, because I can depend on a great maintenance department and know that our vehicles that are carrying around seniors, we're not going to be stranded. We're not, we're not going to have things blow out or safety hazards. It's going to be well maintained. So all of this truly is a very close partnership. And the last thing that I want to do is violate the contract by not being able to do what we said we were going to do. And what we said we're going to do is the fixed route, the journey, the docent, the whatever, yeah. So, but good question, ma'am. Thank you.
My other question was, you said we would charge for non-emergency medical treatment. Now, Journey takes us to our physicians. Is that considered non-emergency?
No. What is happening today in Laguna Woods Village, and if you're on that fixed route system where you go to Clubhouse 1 and you get on the medical bus that takes you to within the village where it goes today, it's going to continue to go tomorrow.
Well, that's not Journey. Journey comes to our cul-de-sac and takes us to our doctor's appointments within the village route.
Within the village route, okay.
Right.
So that will continue exactly the way that it is. Now, let's say that instead of within the village, you've got to go to Mission Hospital.
Right, then I take Agewell.
Then you take Agewell exactly like you are today, and it would be under the NEPT.
Which I have done, and it's wonderful. Thank you. But I just want to continue.
Ma'am, did you want to ask your last question? I'm right behind you.
Now, how are you going to be handling people that can't drive but want to go to special events like Clubhouse 3 has movies, they have presentations, but they're all at night?
As we do currently with the existing Lyft contract, the hours of operation, we currently utilize Lyft for all the evening rides. You would contact transportation, they would help you get that set up, and the Lyft car will take you to whatever clubhouse you need to go to at night, and then pick you up and take home.
So they go to your banner, or do they
They go out in front of your house, pick you up in front of your house, and take you to whatever the location within the transportation corridor that we have, whatever clubhouse, and that's handled through the Lyft. That's part of our Boost program, which is Lyft. They'll pick you up, then we'll get them scheduled to take you back home.
What about the social events, like going out for dinner at night, but still within the circumference of our...
As long as it's within the boundaries of our transportation program, if you would go to Restaurant 19 or whatever, yes, the Lyft will take you there.
Good morning. Steve, this is for you. I'm Judith Troutman, and I'm speaking as a resident, not a director. I was concerned about page 5 on your overhead. Number one, you're going to be blessed to get 90% of our drivers. They are kind and considerate and sweet and helpful, and you couldn't ask for better people. But notice I said 90%. Like any organization anywhere in the world, you're going to have that 1 to 10% rotten apple in any group. And unfortunately, we may have one rotten egg in our system. So on page 5, it says, plus you verbalized, you're going to automatically hire all the drivers and the schedulers and the coordinator with no questions asked. I really encourage you to vet some people. Or are you going to at least have like a 30-day probation period and talk to all the drivers like you inferred. I have testimony from several drivers, at least 4. And we had one that died recently, had a heart attack after having a violent argument with this one bad egg. Another one's on emergency leave because of stress, this one bad egg. And 2 others that got together and considering a lawsuit against this village. Because of this one bad egg, we can't seem to get rid of the one bad egg. I've been to HR, got thrown out of the office, and I noticed Francisco left because he doesn't want to answer my question. This person must get 12 complaints a day, and Francisco puts them in the trash. So I want to ask him why. So anyway, that's what concerns me, is that you're not going to vet the drivers or the coordinators ahead of time. And hopefully you'll put them on some probation, like you said, but I'm hoping there's no lawsuit for you before, something violent happens.
I really appreciate the comment, and what I will do is Chris and I will talk about that. I've gotten a lot of information today about a particular driver. I don't know, excuse me, if that's the one you're speaking of, but we'll talk about it because that should be dealt with in the appropriate fashion, and if as the partnership takes place, that would be the appropriate time to address that. So thank you for that, and I take that to heart.
That wraps up the seating here.
Great. Well, again, this was a long meeting. I really appreciate everybody coming out. I do want to let you know that all the questions that were asked, they are being written down, much like I did from the...
We still have more questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me finish. As much as I did as the previous meeting, all the questions I will be formalizing in writing, and we'll have available for these answers in written form as well. So they're not lost, and they're just not thought about anymore, because all the questions asked are very important, and we want to make sure that we don't lose that history. I would like to see, there was a question on the chat box in Zoom. I do want to, Steve, I might need your help on this one, but it basically talks about where the age-well buses are smaller, will I have to sit closely to another rider? Currently, our buses are big enough so we do not have to sit on each other's laps. With COVID, I don't care to sit closely to another rider. What I would say, my answer to that, as much as we've talked about, that is why they are purchasing our existing buses, and our existing buses, it's been a long morning, will be used for our fixed route. So it's not like the fixed route is going to be, that we're not going to be using the smaller age-well buses for the fixed route. So just want to make sure that's clear. So, and with that, I just wanted to thank you. Did you have a comment on that? No. Okay. And with that, I just wanted to thank you all for coming, and I appreciate all the feedback we got. Thank you.